All right, Mike Chardon here, your nedss application analyst. Tracy and Christy wanted me to give a kind of an overview of what some of the ELR processing that goes into nedss, just a kind of like an overview of that process, and maybe this will help out with some of the enteric panels. Basically, how does nedss work in relationship to ELRs, which is an electronic lab record, and manual entry, which can either be a lab or morbidity report? An overview. ELR is an electronic lab record, and it goes into the system and gets processed by LONC codes, which are logical observation identifier names and codes. And those are very kind of specific to each test, based on source, based on type, like source being stool, serum, it could be urine, it could be just a culture, a skin culture. It can be DNA, it can be a titer, or PCR or culture. And they usually try to, when they're coming out, LONC codes are never reused. They're either retired or new ones are made, so that way there's never an issue with the same code representing a different test at any point in history. What a LONC code does is really just associate that test to a program area, be hepatitis, be enteric, be zoonotic, vaccine preventable, or general common disease. And from there, it gets shoved into some conditions, but that is how the ELR kind of processes into nedss. And this is an example. I kind of wanted to throw up an example of what it looks like when it comes in, and these are the ones that you're seeing in your documents requiring review that you go in and either mark as review or turn into investigations. And so here you can kind of see at the top you have an order test, and it's kind of confusing because as you go down, there's order test, there's resulted test and results, and usually you're kind of like, well, what does that really mean? So the only thing that I can really tell you is the best thing to look at is you're down here in the resulted test results section. You have it says test code, and the number at least on this one is 6371-9, and you can tell it's a LONC code because LONC is after it. And you don't have to pay attention to local codes or anything like that. But that's going to tell you that this is a crypto species AG or EIA test for Cryptosporidium. And then, of course, if you wanted to get in more detail, result code G/A200 is a SNOMED code for it being positive. And so that's where that comes in. Besides knowing that this is an ELR, which you'd be able to tell at the top, you can tell this one is because the reporting facility is LabCorp, and all of our LabCorp stuff comes in via ELR. You have ordering facility and ordering provider. You have both of those bits of information. And as you can tell, the way that we have the system set up, this one went into the program area of enteric. So that kind of allows us, if that's not set up, either jurisdiction isn't found in the message when it comes in, or program area, that's when it goes into, at least at the state, documents requiring security review, and then we put it into one of those areas. This is more of a security thing, and that way we keep people not seeing things that are outside their jurisdiction, and that type of thing. And really, if you look at an ELR is sort of considered to be like kind of the gold standard, because you have all the bits of information that you need. A lot of people say that they don't get everything. It is just an electronic lab record. But in my opinion, you do get every bit of information that you're going to need to at least know who to contact to keep going on this investigation, or at least some of the primary information that you're getting. And as we move towards more facilities that submit ELRs through the Health Information Exchange, we should be picking up stuff that you may be missing actually through the older formats like paper or faxes and that type of thing. Let's go to the next slide and see if this, So in relation to what we're talking about, gastrointestinal panels, they're kind of a new concept, and there's really no standard LONC code associated with those panels yet, even though a panel may include individual tests that have LONC codes. There is really no one general LONC code for a panel. Like some of the HEP panels have it, some of the arboviral panels have it, and that type of thing. So what happens? And this could happen before it gets into NEDS via the Health Information Exchange, or it can happen once it gets into NEDS. And basically, the panel can either come in as a panel if it's set up that way, or a lot of times it will get split up into individual lab results, like HEP panels do and ARBO panels do. This happens quite a bit, and I think I have a slide later that will show you this, but the thing about these new panels is, as Christy says, you guys kind of have to cipher through those and understand what you're looking at. But the Health Information Exchange splits these on each test. So it's a good practice now to really, you'll want to scroll to the bottom of that page and look for versions. I think it says test versions at the bottom. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, some have 6. And you really want to click on those. And those will bring you up a bigger window of that lab test. And I'll explain in a minute. Because what's happening is the way that it processes in the system, it's not necessarily always overwriting the test. So you need to really look there because it may have a positive, it may be a negative. You know, it's one of those things that not necessarily the best working practice, but something that we're going to have to work with. And to kind of highlight that is that NEDS uses a process called snapshot processing. And we've brought it up to hopefully be fixed. So with a panel, and I know that Tracy didn't really like it, but it was one of those things that kind of discovered as a group of NEDS states that a test may come in, say, with a salmonella positive, but it may have an E. coli that's negative, or may have a Campi that's negative. And as you know, you can have a patient positive for multiple organisms, but the way that it processed was that it may come back that you never, at least on the surface, see that the E. coli came back positive later. So you'll really want to go down and look at those other versions of ELRs coming in as they stack to see if you're getting either something positive or something that's been turned around that was positive but may never grew out or never turned into anything. It's very important to remember that aspect, and that's a new issue that's kind of sprung up since we're getting more facilities through the Health Information Exchange. So hopefully if you have any issues with that, I'm going to try to stay in more contact with the users. And that's probably something you will not see if you're in the training environment. It's been mentioned before that the training environment doesn't necessarily mirror the production environment very closely at all. It's definitely more of just kind of a plug and play, get comfortable with the fields and that sort of thing. The other way to put a lab in or a morbidity report would be manual entry, right? So at this point, one isn't using long codes. You're just basically using a sheet of paper that you got, and you have order test, resulted test, and you're looking for a source. Make sure you look for the source and stool culture. And these functions are found in that drop-down menu. And what you really want to do is make sure that you're searching either the long search functions for these, because once again, tests are very specific, and I've been trying to sell that the more specific we are with the information that we're putting in, the better the data will be if and when we ever decide to use that for different projects, reports, maybe understanding that this is our gold standard test that most physicians need to use in the state, or that the ones that they are using, and that sort of thing. So like I said, in that search function, you will come up with, just for example, like the many different types of salmonella, or even different variations of E. coli, and you want to be very specific. Some you can get away with because they say species, and you'll be able to pick that, and then you can maybe in a text box put exactly what it is, that sort of thing. But if you're not finding what you're looking for, or what I would consider to be the short name description of a resulted test, please email me, and we can get those put in. Same way with reporting facilities or provider facilities. Anything that's not in a drop-down box that we can put in there for you, we can put that in to make it a little bit more accurate in the reporting aspect of the application. And that way you're not having to put as much stuff in a text box. It's kind of more coded in there, and we can kind of get that out, and business objects, for example. I looked at this slide a lot, and I really don't understand why I put this in here. I think that there was a purpose. I think it got chopped off a little bit, but I think it was to just kind of highlight some different things. You don't have some of these buttons like delete. You don't have the delete function. That is only a state level function, but you have managed associations. You manage different labs to different morbidity reports, investigations, that sort of thing. I think what I was trying to show is that below clinical, you would have that little section of lab versions, and that's where you would really need to look. Like I said, it just has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just need to click on those, and it'll bring up another window to kind of help you with the process. I know it's an extra step, but that does have information in there that could be really, really important to determining what you're dealing with and what needs to be investigated as a condition. But I believe that is all. So, like I said, if you need to contact me, always feel free to email me or call me, and we can always update anything in the system that you're not finding there. And if you guys are noticing new tests that are coming across, please inform us of those, and we can definitely get those into the system, because you should be seeing more volume, at least in the electronic reporting stream of data that we're getting, just with the amount of local facilities we're bringing through the Health Information Exchange. But as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.